Chapter 29. 49 and counting. Here's the question. Since I've been married 5 times to the same woman, if we split up, will we have 5 divorces? I promised our friend Cindy Citron that I'd credit that line to her, since she came up with it when we were discussing our marriages. Cindy's one of our oldest friends. Her father and my father were buddies since before they were 16, and remained close until my father died at 87. Deborah and I were married in 1954, when I was a junior at Stanford, and again in 1964, 1974, 1984, and 1994. That's not counting a marriage encounter weekend when, climactically, about 100 couples were remarried en masse. I'm pretty sure I was the one who had the idea of renewing our vows every 10 years. As a matter of fact, I know I was. Because Deborah is usually ambivalent as the date approaches, and once she even insisted I sign a prenuptial agreement. I think that was 84, when we'd been married for 30 years. She never got around to drafting it. On our 10th anniversary, we had a simple ceremony at a beautiful temple in Burlingame, which had been a Quonset hut when we first got married, with the rabbi who married us, Sanford Rosen, the immediate family, and some of the original wedding party. Once it was just the 2 of us in the rabbi's living room. Once at the Madonna Inn, where we'd rented a suite for the weekend, Rabbi Rosen, his wife Melba, my best man Al Gibson, and his wife Lisa were our guests. In 2004, we're scheduled for our 15th, and I've already called Rabbi Rosen and asked him to pencil in the date. Predictably, he said, "You mean you 2 are still married?" and promised to be there if he's still alive. As I write this, it's more than a year away, and I'm already thinking of ways to talk Deborah into it. She might go for a cruise, if we invite everyone we know to join us. It doesn't seem that long ago when we celebrated my parents' 50th. My cousin Carol Fish and her husband Steve hosted a wonderful day-long party, which Deborah and I arranged with them, at their lovely home in Sudbury, Massachusetts. People came from everywhere, even Canada. Cousins, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, sisters and brothers, childhood friends, one-time law partners. My father used to tell a joke that ended with the punchline, "Up to his ass in alligators." And that's what he'd say later about the party, that he'd been up to his ass in relatives. The celebration spilled out of our house onto the lush landscape of the backyard and lasted well into the evening. Old songs were sung, original commemorative poems were read, tears were shed, dried, then shed again, food trays were passed, toasts were made, generational pictures taken, hugs and kisses exchanged. My mother gave my father a handmade Purple Heart, which he wore on his navy blue blazer, as a token of dedication to their marriage. My mother and father had never looked so beautiful and handsome, or seemed happier in my memory. I'd written and attempted to sing, to a somewhat mixed response, a lyric to the tune of "California, Here I Come," which included the lines, "Carol Fish, you take the cake, what a party you can make," and my personal favorite, "Sudbury is very far for some of us to come." The next day, Deborah and I threw a cocktail party for my folks at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Boston, with everyone who couldn't make it to Steve and Carol's. Comparatively speaking, it was low-key and mellow, but it had a flavor and a style of its own, and we all enjoyed it. When we went to the hotel coffee shop for brunch the next morning, they refused to let my father in because he was wearing Levi's, not blue denim jeans, but light blue, neatly pressed cotton slacks. I was furious, particularly because my father was always immaculate, even when he wasn't feeling well, and that day he was feeling fine. I protested. I protested vehemently. I protested us right out into the lobby, where I was sure that several employees sneered at me, in keeping with the pretentious name of the hotel. That's the kind of incident I think is so funny in Larry David's HBO series Curb Your Enthusiasm, but at the time I failed to see any humor in it. We tried not to let the confrontation in the coffee shop spoil what was otherwise a memorable weekend. Although come to think of it, that made it even more memorable. The 50th anniversary reminds me of Deborah's 50th birthday. I spent months making plans to surprise her. Finally, I managed to come up with an extravagant weekend at the Beverly Hills Hotel, a clothes shopping spree, several sumptuous dinners, a couple of lavish lunches. I invited all her favorite women friends to one bouquet of flowers, a day at Elizabeth Arden's, and a diamond ring, for which I'd saved secretly from residual checks for many weeks. As I recall, my efforts were suitably rewarded. However, with each passing birthday or anniversary, it's become increasingly apparent that those two celebrations might have been mistakes, because it will be very hard, virtually impossible, for me to surpass them. In less than 2 years, Deborah and I embark on our 50th, and I've already taken my best shot. I know it's going to be a challenge, because Deborah, besides loving me, has always felt, with some justification, that I am loud, crude, abrasive, difficult, spoiled, my mother loved me too much, and controlling. And I'm certain that each occasion has provided yet another opportunity for her to reflect on and reconsider her decision that summer of '54 to throw in her lot with me. It occurs to me now that when I called to say hello and tell Deborah that I loved her the day that we were to marry, her roommate Joan told me she was crying hysterically in the bathtub, wouldn't talk to me, and might not show up that evening for the ceremony. "Don't," Joan said emphatically, "count on it." So it was that when Deborah was late arriving. I refused to sign the marriage certificate until I knew she was in the building, although Rabbi Rogosin and my friend Al Gibson attempted to reassure me. Then, looking glorious, she was coming down the aisle on her father's arm, and my kid brother Roy, who was 12, was playing the wedding march on the piano, a little too slowly, so he wouldn't make a mistake, and we were touching and giggling and saying our vows. Over the years, our two strong personalities have produced a dynamic relationship reminiscent sometimes of the old radio show The Bickersons, and once prompted this vivid dream. We're driving along the Ventura Freeway, and we're arguing. Deborah says something like, "I'll give you 2 more exits to stop acting like such an asshole." And we keep on driving, and there are no more exits. Going back to Cindy Citron's comment at the beginning of this, I don't have to worry about being divorced 5 times. I only have to worry about keeping my one and only till death do us part marriage to Deborah alive and well for the duration. And about whether or not, if she finally comes up with one, I should consider signing a prenuptial agreement.